$18,000. That's the price of a round-trip first-class ticket between New York and Singapore on Singapore Airlines. Meanwhile, other airlines charge $12,000, $10,000 for the same route, some even $8,000. And here's what's interesting. They operate with an 87% load factor on long-haul routes. 87%, charging more than everyone else. And how do they do it? Well, it seems strange, but it's not in the lounges, promotional fares, which are rare, or impeccable service.
Aviate has reached 20,000 subscribers passionate about aviation. Our sincere thanks for your support. And if you're new here, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications.
To give you an idea, the average age of Singapore Airlines fleet is 6.5 years. The global average of major airlines between 11 and 15 years. While you pay increasingly expensive tickets on increasingly old aircraft, there's a company that took the opposite path. Let's start with a number that should bother everyone who flies: 35%. That's the average increase in international business class ticket prices since 2019. And I'm not talking about low-cost carriers. I'm talking about the major global carriers, the so-called premium airlines. The pitch? New onboard experience, unparalleled comfort, world-class product. The reality? The global fleet's average age is 12.8 years and rising. Let me explain what this means in practice. You buy a $6,000 business class ticket to London. You board the plane, the seat has been refurbished, it has new fabric, an updated logo, but the structure is 14 years old. The entertainment screen is from 2012, the recline system gets stuck halfway, you feel every engine vibration because the acoustic insulation is from another era. You paid more, but the plane is old. But don't worry, this isn't incompetence, it's strategy. Keeping old planes flying is theoretically cheaper in the short term. You've already paid for the asset, you've already amortized the investment, so squeezing out another 5, 8, 10 years of useful life seems to make financial sense. Seems to, until you put the real cost on paper. A Boeing 777-200 with 15 years of operation consumes approximately 28% more fuel per seat than a new Boeing 787-10. On a transatlantic route, that represents about 18 extra tons of jet fuel per flight. At jet fuel prices near $900 per ton, fuel alone can cost roughly $16,000 over the course of a long-haul flight. But airlines continue. Why? Because the passenger doesn't see the fuel bill. What they see is the ticket price. And when you compete on volume, you need to keep prices low. So you cut where the passenger doesn't immediately notice, in the fleet renewal. But there's a company that did the math differently. Singapore Airlines has 147 aircraft in its active fleet. Of these, only 12 are more than 10 years old. That represents 8% of the fleet. Compare that to the 3 largest European airlines. On average, 42% of their fleets are more than 10 years old. The philosophy is straightforward. If I charge premium prices, I'll deliver a premium product. There's no point having the world's best catering if the passenger arrives destroyed because they spent 14 hours on a plane with pressurization at 8,000 feet, 2,400 meters. There's no point having a suite with a door if the noise from the old engine prevents the passenger from sleeping. Singapore understood this. In premium aviation, the plane isn't the vehicle for the product, the plane is the product. And this is reflected in their fleet choices. The Airbus A350 is the backbone of long-haul operations. Why? Because it was designed from scratch for ultra-long routes with high premium density. Composite fuselage, latest generation Rolls-Royce XWB engines, cabin pressurized to the equivalent of 6,000 feet, 1,800 meters. The Boeing 787, maximum efficiency on medium and long routes, 25% less consumption than previous models. Electrical systems instead of pneumatic, windows 65% larger. And the A380? Ah, the A380. Everyone says it's a white elephant. Singapore operates 12 of them and doesn't plan to retire them anytime soon. On the right routes, London, Sydney, Hong Kong, the A380 is a money-making machine. Configured with 477 seats instead of the 600 that other airlines tried to cram in, it offers space, silence, and presence with a premium configuration in the suites. While other airlines gave up on the A380 because they couldn't fill it, Singapore configured for margins, not for volume. And that's the difference. Now let's talk about something the passenger feels but can't explain. Why do you arrive from some trips absolutely destroyed and others relatively well? Same class, same duration, same route. The answer lies in the cabin engineering. A Boeing 777 pressurizes the cabin to the equivalent of 8,000 feet, 2,400 meters. That means that during a 10-hour flight, your body is functioning as if you are at the top of a mountain for 10 hours. The Boeing 787 and Airbus A350, 6,000 feet or 1,800 meters. Seems small. It's not. This difference translates to 15% more oxygen in the blood, less fatigue, fewer headaches, less jet lag. Humidity is another factor. Traditional aircraft operate with 10 to 15% relative humidity in the cabin. That's drier than the Sahara, literally. The 787 and A350, with composite fuselage that don't corrode with humidity, reach 20 to 25%. It sounds technical, but the practical effect is direct. You don't wake up with a dry mouth, your eyes don't burn, your skin doesn't peel, and you breathe better. And there's the noise. New generation engines are up to 50% quieter than engines from 20 years ago. The composite fuselage absorbs more vibration. Here's the thing, the passenger doesn't know it's the pressurization. They don't know it's the humidity. They don't read the technical specifications of the engines. They just know they flew Singapore and arrived well, and flew another airline and arrived exhausted. Next time they buy, they choose Singapore again and pay more without complaining. That's the invisible competitive advantage. The passenger can't articulate why they prefer it, but their body knows. Now you might be thinking, okay, but new planes cost a fortune. How does this math work out? Let's look at the numbers. Airbus lists the A350-900 at around $317 million, and large customers typically pay less due to volume discounts. It seems insane, right? Until you calculate the return. The A350 family was designed to deliver significantly better fuel efficiency per seat than previous generations of the Boeing 777, with improvements often cited in the 20 to 25% range. Let's do the math on a specific route: Singapore, New York. Distance 9,500 miles or 15,300 kilometers. Duration about 18 hours. On ultra-long routes, the A350-900 typically burns about 5.8 to 6.5 tons of fuel per hour, compared to roughly 7.5 to 8 tons of fuel per hour for a Boeing 777-300ER under similar operating conditions. This translates to a fuel burn of approximately 105 to 115 tons for the A350-900 versus 125 to 135 tons for the 777-300ER. At jet fuel prices around $900 per ton, the difference represents fuel savings in the range of $18,000 to $27,000 per flight. When normalized on a per-seat basis, this equates to efficiency gains commonly cited in the 20 to 25% range. And this is just the fuel cost. Planes also require maintenance, spare parts, crew training, landing fees, and air navigation charges.
Singapore operates this route daily. That saves millions of dollars in annual savings on a single route. Multiply that by the 50-plus long-haul routes the company operates, you're talking about hundreds of millions in annual operational savings. But here's where it gets interesting. Singapore doesn't use these savings to lower prices. They reinvest in the product. Suites with closing doors in first class, fully reclining business class seats custom developed, Chris World entertainment system with over 1,800 options, premium catering in all classes. While other airlines use efficiency to enter price wars, Singapore uses efficiency to increase margins and build barriers to entry. It's quite a different strategy, but it works. And there's another factor few understand: consistency is worth more than luxury. You're an executive who flies Singapore-London every month. Always buy business class on the same airline. Pay US $8,000 per segment. In the first month, you fly on a new Boeing 777, enclosed suite, fully flat bed, 4K screen, Wi-Fi that works. Perfect. In the second month, same route, same fare, you board, and it's a 12-year-old A330, herringbone-style seat, 12-inch screen, unstable Wi-Fi. Same company, same price, completely different products. Does this happen? All the time, because many airlines operate mixed fleets with aircraft from different generations on the same route. Singapore Airlines? No. When you buy Singapore business class ticket on a long-haul route, you know exactly what you'll get, because practically all wide-bodies in the fleet are less than 10 years old and follow the same configuration standard. A350 on Singapore-New York, you know you'll have 42 business class seats in a 1:2:1 layout. Boeing 787, 36 seats, same standard. A380, 78 business class seats distributed across 2 decks. Flight after flight, month after month, the experience is identical. This generates something extremely valuable in the premium segment: trust. The executive who spends $150,000 a year on tickets doesn't want surprises, they want predictability. They want to know that regardless of the specific aircraft, the experience will be the same, and they're willing to pay 30 to 40% more for it. Speaking of which, let's talk about how this translates into money. Singapore Airlines doesn't maximize density, they maximize yield, revenue per passenger. And this becomes clear in aircraft configuration. Take a Boeing 777-300ER. This plane comfortably holds up to 400 seats. Some airlines put 380, 400 passengers. Singapore puts 264. That's 130 fewer seats. Seems crazy until you see the numbers. 395 seats, average price of $1,500 per passenger. Revenue per flight, $592,500 US. 264 seats, average price of $2,800 US per passenger. Revenue per flight, $739,200 US. Difference, $146,700 more per flight, with practically identical operating costs. But the benefits don't stop there. Fewer seats mean less total weight, therefore less fuel burned. Fewer cabin crew required, less complexity in catering and logistics, less structural wear on the aircraft, and most importantly, fare protection. When you have fewer premium seats, you maintain artificial scarcity, and scarcity sustains price. Singapore rarely needs to run aggressive business class promotions because demand consistently exceeds supply. Other airlines enter price wars to fill 80 business class seats. Singapore maintains the price and sells its 42 first. So let's go back to the beginning. $18,400 US for a first-class New York-Singapore, 87% load factor. Now you understand why. It's not marketing, it's not tradition, it's not legacy, it's engineering, it's fleet strategy, it's the willingness to make the more expensive investment today to have the most competitive product tomorrow. I confess I haven't yet had the opportunity to fly with Singapore Airlines, but I spoke with 8 people who reported the same onboard experience, and even on the 777-300ER, a very different internal acoustics compared to other airlines. I don't know if everyone had the same experience, but feel free to leave it in the comments. It's truly a premium product that follows a very different logic from the market, but it has worked very well.